most interesting thing to do in my spare time. All right, well, I'm going to give a non-verbal answer to that, which is coffee snobbery is a valid pursuit, I think. So the director's job on a film set is basically to make sure that all the other people who are on that film set are on the same page. So you've got all these insanely talented, highly competent people who specialize in all kinds of different areas, and the director's kind of the person who's got to be able to make sure that everyone understands what the end goal is, so that everybody, is kind of on the same page, and you're able to have this something that comes together as a coherent story at the end. So it's fundamentally, it's all about visual storytelling, and it's about how to make sure that what you have at the end makes sense and does what you want it to. And that's where I think when they talk about vision or whatever, a lot of it is just making sure that everything lines up and works together. I actually come from a fine art background originally. When I finished school, I flipped a coin between studying art or film. I could have gone either way, and art once. I ended up studying art at university. But I always wanted to really get back into film. Like, that was always, the back of my mind. That was always the thing, that little, like, the pull. It's like, I really want to be doing film. So I ended up doing a lot of video stuff when I was studying art, even though painting was my major. And then at some point, actually, a friend of mine who's in the film industry, Matthew Howard Tripp, he's a prosthetics artist who's been on all kinds of stuff like Mad Max and what else, Raised by Wolves and Dread and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, he knew that I really wanted to be getting more into the filmmaking side of things, and kind of encouraged me to start to do the 48-hour film project as a way of just starting to do stuff. So we literally entered, and this is 2016, we entered the day before the competition started. We had 2 actors, 1 location, whatever we had just had to work. And that was just an amazing way of kind of, getting the ball rolling, I guess, and just actually starting to do stuff. And then I've just, it's just carried on from there. So I've done, a couple of short films since then, music videos, I've dabbled and dipped my toe in commercials. And that's how I got my start in it. And I just kept going from there. If I could do anything, all the budget in the world. Okay, you know what I would do? I would do a TV series adaptation of Command & Conquer Red Alert. But you'd have to do you'd have to do 6 episodes of both. So you'd have to have the Allies and you'd have to have the Soviets, man, it would be so great. There's so much sort of socio-political commentary you could work into it, and at the same time, I don't know, the satire of it is amazing. You can get some amazing kind of sort of action in there, very tongue-in-cheek. I don't know, that's such a formative series for me, because it's quite it's a video game series, but obviously it's very cinematic with the cutscenes and stuff. But the humor was amazing, and the machinery and the tech and everything was so badass. That would be my dream project, actually. Red Alert as a series. Forest walks for sure. Any walks, but forest walks are those are pretty good for unwinding and just clearing your head. They're really good for inspiration too. If you got an idea, especially when I'm writing. If I'm stuck on something, a lot of writing is procrastination, I think. I hope it's everyone and not just me that thinks that. But if you got some ideas that you can swishing around in your head a little bit, and you go for a walk, it really helps to kind of just get some clarity on it. Yeah, that happens pretty much all the time. I think if you follow a movie set memes page on Instagram or something, you can just, I think that's a pretty pervasive feeling. Look, the last 2 years, I think everyone has really battled with that a lot. It's been tough, especially the initial period of 2020, when you're in the hard lockdown. And from there, I think people had to reckon quite a bit with their life choices at that point, and kind of really it was a really tough time. And I think that was kind of the point too, where I was just like, oh, I don't know, where is this going? This is kind of hopeless. Part of what gets you out of it, I think, is just knowing that you couldn't live with yourself if you did give up. Like, you'd have to face yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and go like, oh, I gave up on that. That's part of it. And then I think just working with purpose as well, like finishing things, like seeing things, like whatever project it is you're working with, it, whether it's big or small, but like seeing it through and just finishing it. I think that, in like finding the love of the process again, that's the stuff that gets you through the rocky patches. Oh, pizza. All day, every day.
So without pineapple?
You see, I'm not a pineapple snob. Like, I don't have as much pineapple. I went veggie a couple of years ago, so now the Hawaiian isn't quite, like the Hawaiian, I think can hold its head up high. I think it's a totally exemplary pizza in general. Yeah, I don't look down on the pineapple. But yeah, pizza, comfort food all the time. I could probably eat it for every meal for at least a week and not be over it. I don't know. Surprisingly, or to my shame, I guess, supernatural isn't really my bag. I know my partner Cameron will kill me for publicly stating that. Geez, okay. So Futurama is probably the show that I've watched like from start to finish the most. That, or I guess Twin Peaks would probably be like my favorite shows that I've watched the most. Just in terms of binging, though, Mindhunter gets me, man. Like, if I start the first episode, I have to watch it the whole way through. Like, all of those, both seasons, they just get you. Whew. Geez, to pick, I can tell you which power I'd like to have, and that would be time travel, man. Like to be able to control time. So I guess, like by default, that would be like Doctor Strange or the Flash, or I don't know. Do Doc Brown and Marty McFly count as superheroes? Yeah, exactly. I think if you had time travel, like you'd be pretty sorted. You could you could kind of get the other things. If you wanted money, you can go back and enter the lotto. You can go, if you want whatever it is, I don't know. I think being able to kind of do things and then immediately Control Z and try them slightly differently. In terms of like what's actually influenced the stuff I've done, I'd say like Douglas Adams is a huge influence on like my sense of humor and my writing style and kind of the quirky viewpoint that I bring to things, I think. Along with that, I think like Edgar Wright has been a really big influence. Just in terms of like genre bending and taking different like tropes and things like that and sort of shoving them together and watching, what kind of fresh angles you can do in it, but also like just in terms of like visual storytelling and energy and those kind of things. And I think the Coen brothers, actually, that kind of sort of the deadpan humor that and their particular the way they work morality into things and all that. I think those are influences that have found their way into what I do for sure. I'd love to do some Sam Raimi-ish stuff down the line. That would be great. Like what's really important with creative decisions is knowing what the core sort of truth, I guess, is, or the core point. It's always like, well, what is it a story about? Like not the characters and the plot and stuff, but what's the kind of the key thing you want to get across? And I think once you work that out, you can really that really helps to kind of inform the other creative decisions. Which, rather than kind of making decisions just for the sake of doing this, that, or the other, like working out, okay, well, what's true to the story that you're trying to tell and what's true to, what it is that you want to get across. Yeah, I mean, like it's funny, you know, like they're sort of they're two versions of me that I think are kind of the the peak versions of me, right? That is when I'm on stage. So I play in a thrash metal band called Infanteria, and like when we're on stage and everything's going well, and there's kind of like there's a sort of there's a level of presence and like kind of being in the moment and stuff that is I wish was true of myself the rest of the time, you know. And I find like just on set in general, I don't know if there's a specific moment necessarily where everything's just kind of come together, but like it just, you know, on set I think, you know, when you have to be decisive, I think when you're in the moment, like you've got to get this done by this time, and you know it has to work, and somehow you've got to get to, you know, to where you need to get to. I think like that kind of being in the moment, I love it. So yeah, being on set and being on stage are my two sort of peak selves. It's also like we have a running joke about, you know, the film gods, and we kind of like jokingly kind of do a offering to the film gods before we shoot something. But it's like every so often you get like a blessing from the film god where something completely unexpected just lines up and works, and it's so great, you know. Or like there's one element of a shoot where you're like, okay, somehow this is just going to have to work, and we'll figure it out in the moment or whatever. And then when that happens, you know, and you get that little like gift from the film gods, like that's like it's such a special moment. It's so great, you know. Collaboration, I think, if that answers your question. Yeah, I mean, being able to, you know, work with people, but also just being able to like kind of sort of open yourself up to showing people your work, you know, and kind of like getting out of your room in a sense, and kind of getting your things out there a little bit. Like, you know, like nothing's going to happen if you kind of just sit there by yourself and wish for things. You know, you kind of have to make things happen. And so I think that's a really important skill. You know, being able to kind of seek people out and find those, your team, the people that are going to kind of take you where you want to go. And I guess as a little caveat to that, is to enjoy the process. You know, it's so sometimes you stress so much about, like, you know, getting somewhere sometimes that you forget that it's all supposed to be fun. And you know, there's a lot of pleasure to be had in doing creativity and being creative, you know.
Essentially, you're telling a story, so
Yeah,
you're like the bard.
yeah, and enjoying that, you know. That's you have to remind yourself to do it sometimes, but
I would say also adding to that, not taking yourself too seriously.
yeah, yeah. And you know, almost like not to contradict that, but also knowing that like your voice is important.
Yes.
You know, and like being true to your voice. I think, and like like the thing that's gonna make what you do unique and give people something to latch onto is your own perspective on it and your own like unique twist on it. And like it's really easy to kind of like second guess yourself sometimes and sort of not give your perspective enough credit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that's going to make something unique and give people something to latch onto. Sure. So I'm a little bit bad with that stuff, but Instagram is where I'm most active. You can find me at tim.leibbrandt, which is Leibbrandt. Home Affairs love love my surname. Otherwise, Martian Roadkill is my film projects. That's kind of the banner that we do that under. Martian Roadkill is on YouTube as well, and we have a website under construction. So, you know, if this is a future hi person from the future, our website may even be up at martianroadkill.com.